Welcome to the show. That's right, it's players only, baby. C. Webb here with my girl Candace Parker, Baron Davis, and you know the big man, Shaquille O'Neal. Now, check it out. It's time now for Accelerate Your Game, presented by Autotrader.com. And when we look at these stats, this really talks about the dominance of Toronto, specifically in the last 7 games, 2.5 seasons, last 2 seasons minus 1 game. And when you look at these points and 12 points and the field goals percentage, Baron, I mean, do the numbers just speak for themselves, and you can just see that it's just been straight beatdowns by Toronto when you look at these numbers? Any of these numbers concern you?
No, I think Toronto is a home team. They've been great in the playoffs, utilizing their fans, having Kawhi. I think Kawhi just kind of gives them that anchor and that take care of home court mentality that he had at the Spurs. And so when you're looking at Toronto, you're looking at a more talented team now than they had before the All-Star break. And it's playoff time, so they got to serve up.
Shaq, when you look at the last 4 out of 6 for Boston, they lost. They are talented, as you talk about. I think you said, you like the talent on this team. But recently, they've had some comments come out the locker room, and it was talking about specifically Morris was saying, listen, it's not about us playing well together. It's the fact that we don't play hard. Does that concern you that a team doesn't play hard over chemistry? I mean, a couple weeks ago, you were saying that you don't have to like each other to win. But what do you think about when the locker room says, hey, we're not even giving that effort?
It does concern me, but it's a lot of talk going on in the Boston team, but I don't know who's the leader of the team is. I don't know. I would assume it's Kyrie Irving. And what Kyrie has to do is he has to lift his other players. You play with guys that wanted to be great. You play with White Chocolate, he wanted to be great. So you allowed him to be great. You could have shot every time. Baron could have shot every time. You could have shot every time. But when you're the best player, true definition of a great player is one that makes the other players great. And Kyrie should have sat and saw what the young guys were doing without him. And say, okay, I don't have to do everything. Let me use these young fellas. They want to play. They want to be great. I'm going to rest. I'm going to take over when I need to take over. I'm going to let them play. So I just think it's a conversation that needs to be had. They just need to hash it out, whatever. Everybody needs to say what's on their mind. But, sometimes when you don't get the respect that you want, you kind of just, all right, you do it. You don't want me to do it, you do it. So it's not them really playing hard. It's just them not meshing as one. As soon as they mesh as one, they'll be one of the top teams in the entire NBA.
Well, let me follow that up. You see the problems that maybe the Lakers have in the locker room with young players saying, or they didn't say anything, but assuming that they got traded or was talking about getting traded and their feelings hurt. Kyrie supposedly called back to LeBron. He doesn't know where he's going. He says, I'm sorry for being immature with you. Some took it as he's talking about his teammates. Do you see that being an issue of hurt feelings and lack of leadership in the locker room as well?
Well, it's something that needs to be addressed. You just go to him and say, you made some comments. Who you talking about? I mean, what do you mean? And then, again, as players, it's no time to sit and sulk. If you don't want to be traded, you don't want to be talked about, step up. LeBron is used to playing with guys that hit shots and make him look good. He's not having that right now. So, there's 2 ways to go about that. Say something, guys get sensitive and step up, or you say something and guys just, stay sensitive all year. It's over, you get traded. Look, I was traded 6 times, I never cried about it. You move on, it's the business of basketball. But if you want to be a guy that doesn't get traded, you got to step up, period.
Candace, I know you like this team, but as a big man, I'm looking at Horford's numbers the last few years. And this year, he's averaging 13 points, 7 rebounds. That's 16th amongst NBA starting centers. But you want to tell me, though, that all that doesn't matter. It's about the little things that he does on the court.
It is about the little things, and I think he's huge for their offense going forward. Within the playoffs last year, if you remember, after All-Star break was when he picked up. He's had some injuries, and I think all of us have, and you understand how important it is to really kind of coast at the beginning of the season and really pick it up now. Right now, you see Horford in a pick and roll with Rozier, but his ability to really pick and pop against the bigs in the East, Embiid doesn't want to go out there, and obviously you can't rotate off of Boston shooters. Again, you have kind of like a double pick similar. He rolls to the basket, is able, Marcus Smart is able to find him. And then Gordon Hayward, because he is able to hit shots beyond the three-point line, they have to switch, which puts a mismatch of Embiid onto a Gordon Hayward, and you got Jimmy Butler switching over. Look, if they're going to go far in the playoffs, Horford has to be able to pick and stretch the defense against the Embiids, the Lopez's, the Marc Gasols, the bigger bigs of the East. And I think if he can do that into the playoffs, they're going to have success.
BD, if right now we look at this board and we see the 4 or 5 game is Philly-Boston, who would you have in that series, and are you concerned with the talk coming out of Boston's locker room?
Not so much. You know, I do like Philadelphia. I think they got, you know, a lot of firepower, but it seems like Boston has kind of had their number. And Boston match up well against Philly. So once Boston can kind of get it together and start playing for each other and realize that, you know, this is the last season that they're going to have together anyway, whatever way you look at it, I think they'll get their act together. And they're a bad matchup for Philadelphia.
So you're confident that even though all this is going on, 2 and 4 out of the last 6 games, that they can hit a switch and it'll be all right once the playoffs start coming. Rozier, all these guys, it's going to be just like it was last year.
Yeah, I mean, give them like, you know, 5-game winning streak, 3-game winning streak. They got to get back into a winner's mentality in order for them to start prepping for the playoffs.
And Shaq, you've won championships and you've had to do it both on the road and at home. How much does the home court advantage come into play for a team like Toronto with a new star, a new coach, and really playoff troubles since LeBron was in the East Coast?
I mean, you know, they play well at home and on the road. My only concern with Toronto has been my same concern for the past 5 years, Mr. Kyle Lowry. You know, they always do great in the regular season, always, you know, top 4, top spot. But sometimes Kyle Lowry, it's no diss against Kyle. You know, I've always wanted him to step his game up and go to the next round, to the next level. If he can play consistent, finally, then, you know, this team can go pretty far. But, you know, I know they got this guy, you know, Gasol, and, you know, they got a pretty good bench, but they're going to need Kyle Lowry to do better than what he's done in the regular season for them to go to the next level.
Candace, are we giving Milwaukee Bucks and Toronto, meaning us, the fans, the media, everybody, are we giving these 2 teams enough love, or you think that we're going to be seeing them later on and they're going to force us to give them some love when the playoffs come?
Well, I don't know. I mean, Milwaukee was cursed by Ja Rule, so I think that certainly affects their chances.
Are we ready?
Come on, Ja Rule. That wasn't fire. But anyway, he was cursed by Ja Rule, so Toronto's had trouble with LeBron.
Here comes the tweet.
It's all about Ja Rule, baby.
Oh, man, we got more to